I was gonna title this like as a comedy. I just want to let you know that it'd be a little comical, but I'm just showing you some stuff. I was I was out a little bit today, and I found myself, talking to a female today, and I wasn't planning it. Didn't set my sights on it. So I'm out, and the reason why I talked to her, cause something happened, and I'm talking to her, and I'm thinking, she looked good or whatever. She had on this, like, I don't know, she was just in some basic clothes, maybe gray sweats, something like that, blue shirt, blue hair, kind of had that Fantasia look a little bit. But I wasn't. Me. I don't really bother people. See, I don't know the situation and everything like that. To get into that, somebody could be looking at this right now. Hey, what you doing? So. You ain't got to worry about that because I don't know the person's situation. Now, if she was single, that'd be something different. But my point was, I wasn't even looking for that type of blessing. And the Lord will bless you in certain ways that He see fit, and kind of boost you up, things like that. Show you that it's for me. It's the little stuff that shows me that life is so precious and it's still worth living, still worth going forward. Not worth you like some of you out there. You get so depressed that you want to end your life and things like that. It's not worth it. Now, of course, while I'm talking to the female, my mind is somewhere. It's going, glory. That's in my mind. I'm jumping up and down. That's how my mind works. But then, you got the other side, like, chill, 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 chill. Be kind of cool or whatever. Because, I'm just out, like I said, doing what I got to do. And so, now, once again, I'm not talking about anybody. But it was another person outside. It was a dude. He had a child or whatever, and the child just kind of darted. We thought he was going in the street. That's what sparked me and the lady's conversation. We thought he was going in the street, so it's from the sidewalk, and we started laughing because I said, man, I almost kind of knocked the lady in front of me over trying to get to, because she was kind of close and everything, but you just kind of trying to get to the child and everything like that. And you start speaking different languages, like Papa, Papito, it start speaking the different languages. Hey, oh, hey, I said, what no, but I was trying to get to the child, but you find yourself. You find yourself speaking, different languages, different things. That's why I say we all connected or whatever, because once I thought I was like, hey, papi, and I didn't even realize what what was going on, and the dude was kind of laughing because he was. I seen him standing there, right? I seen him standing there, but what I thought was that the child that he had, because he was carrying, I thought that the child that he had was by the by the van or wherever that he was at. It was one of those regular type of vehicle vans or whatever, and I seen him standing there. So you think he there and the child there and everybody there, and look, man, see this is what I'm talking about, y'all. When I say I could be doing videos like that, and he probably got who knows 1.5 million views. It could be any number, 20, 30 million, 60 million, whatever. It could be just off of that one. And me and the lady was looking around like, where the camera at, mug? Where the camera? I say, where the camera? Y'all pranking us? Where the camera at, man? We looking in the van and stuff. I'm like, the camera over here. Just point to the camera. He might not have one though, cause he ain't say like, yeah, this is a prank or whatever. But yeah, I mean, you never know. We start looking in the van. I looked in the van. I said, the camera in here. I look right in there. I was like, the camera in there. You got us or whatever. But see, another thing I noticed. See, this is what I noticed. Sometimes people ain't worried. Like, okay, like the fact that normally, and my first reaction was, I wasn't gonna worry about it. If he ain't watching or whatever, I'm going to let I know it's hard. Now, come on, y'all. Come on, y'all know that we sometimes ain't worried about somebody else's child. But for most of us, it's a natural reaction. Sometimes you got your own, you know how you got your own business, you really ain't worried about nobody else's business. Sometimes that's how I feel inside. You know what I mean? Like, I'm standing there and I see something. I ain't worried about that. I'm worried about what I'm doing right now. But I guess the day wasn't that day because, true, I almost took off, but he kind of stepped in the van, and I said, "What in the world?" Because that's what sparked up the conversation with me and the lady. And of course, she out there. I see her again. She's single. I might try to talk to her, but I wasn't even on that type of time today. Like my mind frame wasn't like that. We just had watch how the Lord works. We just had a nice, pleasant conversation, and we start talking about like children and how important things are, and sometimes you're not paying attention. How certain things can happen. How one time I was able to basically save a baby. And I told the story one time. I don't know if the people believe me or not. I really don't care if they don't. But we'll all find out in heaven. But the place I was at, I was doing some work, and we was looking at some cars and stuff. And I was right by one car, and then we just started having some conversation because I was fixing something, and we had took a break or something like that, and we was just doing some car work basically, and we was at the shop. We was all hanging things like that, and so the lady is pregnant, and she's in the alleyway or whatever. And maybe she looked away or something like that. But the kid just darted, man. And darted from, how you can dart from the alleyway to the street, like anywhere, in the city, anywhere places you got, how the alleyway, some alleyways really take you into the street. Once you get past that alleyway, you in the street. So if I ain't say, hey, I was like, hey, what's going on? I was real loud. People start looking around, scared, because they thinking somebody might have, a weapon or something like that. And I just darted and got the child and picked him up and brought him. And she said, thank you so much. And I'm like, lady, But I guess maybe she was real tired. I mean, you never know. Maybe she just wasn't paying attention. Some people, and I'm not saying anything about anybody, but some people maybe they should get hit. They always running off or something like that. You know how our mind works. I'm not saying that's what she said, but she just, walking, and then it's like, well, maybe you actually get hit this time. I don't have to worry about you. You know how sometimes your mind works. That's what I'm saying. I doubt it I'm not saying that she doesn't care. I'm not saying that she wanted that to happen. So we can just cut that right there. I want to make sure that's clear. He said that. No, I didn't. Okay, so we passed that. But that was an experience. But I wanted to show you how the Lord works in such different ways. And see, just off of conversation, that person, and I'm not saying this, but you know how you go somewhere and you just casually talk to somebody and you don't see him for a while. That could be your wife one day. It happened to one of my family members. That could be your wife. For her, that could be, your husband or whatever. You out there talking and, hey, now I just was having, I wanted to have a nice conversation in my mind. I'm like, all right, we can just talk. And I kind of I was talking, and then, all right, kind of maybe, died down a little bit or whatever. I just kind of let it go. And then I seen her again, and then we was talking about, I don't know, some type of bulbs or something like that, light bulbs or something like that. And, I was just like, well, it was nice. It was nice talking to you. God bless you. Have a good day, See, I'm so focused in the Lord, but I know when I see a beautiful woman, so lady, watch out, lady. That's all I got to say. Watch out. But I'm not starting no trouble though. I'm not, starting no trouble. It was good to have a well placed conversation and to talk to somebody who can have a conversation and actually hold a good quality conversation. That was pretty cool. Because that doesn't happen every day. It happens, but it doesn't happen every day. You don't talk to everybody. Everybody can't really hold like a conversation. It might be an alright conversation or average conversation, but everybody can't really hold, like a conversation. So that was cool. We all different, so it's different type of people. You get different type of conversation. But I thought it was pretty funny though. Like I said, see, I could be doing stuff like that, but I don't like to kind of cry wolf or do stuff like that, because when something really happens, then ain't nobody will know what's going on. You keep yelling hell, 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 and they like, well, what's going on? I don't like to do that. I like to get down to business. Might do a little joking, a little comedy. But I know how to get serious too. If the situation is serious, I'm really serious about, mainly serious about the situation. I'm really serious if it needs to get, serious. If it needs to get comical, and I can do my comedy thing, because this whole video could have been a comedy thing. But I'm like, well, I'm not going to just do that. I'm going to show the lesson in it and show, what the Lord wants me to show. So y'all, I appreciate your time. I had a good time. Who knows? I get on here, I might see the lady again. I say, hey, we done, went out, or we talked some more, or something like that. But like I always say, I'm not trying to step on nobody's toes. I didn't ask her what her situation is, stuff like that. See, I still do things like that. Hey, what's your situation? This. I need to know, before we just do anything, I need to know a little bit of information. I need to know a lot. I need to know a lot. Last woman I was with, I knew a lot. I knew, her family and stuff like that, and different names, different sisters, different things like that. I knew, we talked and things like that. Some people don't want to do that, with a woman. They just want what they want, which I can understand naturally wise, but I like to kind of talk to people, get to know them, things like that. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Don't take too long. It ain't gonna take all day. I think I'm gonna get you in the next one. I'm gonna say God bless you, and I'll talk a little bit more in the next one.